1992, Family Matters airs season 3, episode 21, Stop in the Name of Love. Laura had enough problems trying to give Urkel the brush off. Now Waldo is the one who's head over heels in love with the Winslow girl, especially after she tried to encourage down on his luck Waldo.
I mean, this is the nightmare, Steve. This is it. I mean, this is the nightmare in either, like, regardless of sex. You know what I'm saying? When you just say something nice and then it just turns into a whole hullabaloo, Steve.
Yeah, you take their niceness for granted.
Yeah, and I mean, right when we get this whole episode just full of drama right from the beginning, Steve, because we start off to meet Lieutenant Murtaugh. This is not my Murtaugh, Steve. This is not a Detective Murtaugh. This is not Danny Glover. This is just some guy. This is Lieutenant Murtaugh. But he's hanging out with Carl, and he's got a flex because he just bought himself a cherry Firebird, Steve. Costs a lot, but that thing is crisp.
Yeah, while dressed like Bagger Vance. And
Yeah,
it is a
why that though? Why was he dressed like he was going out in the 30s, Steve? Like, what the fuck?
because he's obnoxious. Maybe we should have added him to that escape room.
I mean, Murtaugh is going to get out because he's a dirty cop, Steve. Where did this money come from? To buy a Firebird? Buy a cherry Firebird? I'm look into that, Carl. Get Eternal Affairs into this one. But, you know, Carl's like, oh, it's nice, man. He's like, man, it's a significant chunk of my income now. I'm in over my head, but it's worth it. You know, all that money I spent's worth it because this is what I've wanted my whole life. And as he's just like looking at it and basking in the glory of that Firebird, we hear a crash. And unfortunately, it seems like Murtaugh's car is gone, Steve. Grandma comes in. She's pissed somebody was in her spot. You know, I mean, that's where she usually parks. So she comes in with like a fucked up license plate and is like, hey, Carl, here's the guy's license plate that was in my spot. Find him.
Hi, Lieutenant Murtaugh. I like your ascot.
Yeah, dude, he's up to his ascot and bills for this thing, Steve. But,
Hey.
you know, I don't know if he's above Carl. Like, I don't know what the chain of command is at Chicago PD or if, like, this is his boss. But this is a terrible situation to be in now because this guy, you know, this is going to be some beef going on here. But, you know, you got to keep it cool, but it's not a good look for Carl. Let's put it like that.
And then we cut into that classic theme song.
Shout out to Little Richie doing that little, like, cool ass little kick spin in the beginning of it.
Oh, yeah.
He's got some moves, Steve. It's a signature Chris Farley move. I don't know. That's like what he does in Chippendales. That skit. That's the signature Chris Farley. But Richie, he's got some skills.
With the Jerry Curl mullet to boot.
Yeah,
And
dope.
now we cut to Rachel's, and Waldo and Eddie, they're having a powwow at their local hangout. It's aunt's place. And Eddie's like, man, let's go try to pick up some chicks. And Waldo says, like, I think we get a hernia. Let's start off trying to bench press some little kids.
That ain't even what he said. I think he said the M word, Steve. But I think he did in the episode I saw. Anywho, I saw the unrated one, I think.
Whoa.
But yeah, I mean, you know, Waldo's not. I would assume as a kid with a mustache, he would be a ladies' man because that's an instant conversation starter. But he's not. Eddie goes to like hit on some chicks, and Urkel's he's an employee at Rachel's. He comes up and he's basically like playing bartender to Waldo. He's like, "Hey, what's up, pal? How you doing? You look kind of down in the dumps." And Waldo's just like, I'm just tired, dude. I can't get any chicks. I can't even talk to chicks. And Urkel says something, and Waldo talks about going out with some chick named Vicky, who I guess is like the town. And her nickname's Hickey Vicky, but he got so worked up trying to ask that chick out that he just puked on her. And I mean, that's not a way to get into some draws, Steve.
Even the 976 numbers hang up on him.
1-800 fat chicks? They won't even take his calls, Steve.
And Steve's like, man, my man's down bad. So he goes to Laura and enlists her to help, give him some words of motivation, some lovely words from a loving lady. I don't know why he picked Laura, but
He can
hey,
depress Richard Simmons.
yeah.
After Urkel says that, Laura like goes over there and she's like, you got a lot of
Yeah.
qualities that I like. You've got a face that fits great on your head. Like that's the first thing. He's like, oh wow, cool. Tell me more.
Yeah.
Again, and then she just kind of is like, well, you're a nice guy. You're a very cool dude. Just kind of gives him some nice compliments to make him feel better, Steve.
You're sweet and sensitive, you're courteous and you're kind. You really mean that? She said, like, yeah, I really mean that from the bottom of my dark heart. And what I did forget to mention is that Carl and Murtaugh, they're actually at Rachel's. They're sitting at the little bar. They tell Rachel, like, hey, Carl, tell her who ran into my car. My mother. And he's cracking jokes. He's like, yeah, Miss Knievel. Yeah, don't worry about her. She's fine. Miss Winslow, yeah.
Bad. If I want to see the taillights, I gotta open the glove box.
I mean, from the sound, I'm surprised Granny made it out okay, but yeah, you can tell Lieutenant Murtaugh's still a little stuck in his craw about this whole Firebird situation. But as that's boiling over in the background, Urkel comes over to check on Waldo after he got a little, you know, ego boost from Laura. And he's like, so how's it going? And Waldo's like, man, it's all good, but I think Laura's in love with me now. So it's 0 to 10 with
Oh,
Waldo, Steve.
oh. Dun, 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 dun,
What?
dun.
Cut back to the house after Urkel's closed up Rachel's, and he comes in telling Laura, he's like, yo, Waldo thinks that you're in love with him. So, like, what did you say to this guy? And she's like, I just paid him a couple of compliments. They're not going out, but Urkel's very territorial over this lady, Steve. And I don't get it.
He wants to be the number one de facto.
Pass her over, Steve. Pass her over, Urkel. I keep saying it's hard to do this because you're Steve and he's Steve. I love how he's like, you don't know the power of your beauty. Like, he's paying this woman compliments, Steve. This is a woman
Christopher
screaming. She's
Wallace.
just pushing him to the side. Again, another woman, another person that we talk about that's in that Corey Matthews level of person, Steve. She's a piece of shit.
Yeah, Christopher Wallace said it best. Who's filling them with octane? Got them gassed up. Steve walked in. He left the door open, and he's having a conversation with Laura. She says, "Day Waldo falls in love with me. I'll eat my science book."
Yeah.
And then Waldo comes in with a bouquet of fake flowers.
She's got to eat that book, Steve. She's got a lot of eating to do. He calls her love. He calls her his love, which I love. I mean, that's coming in pretty hot, Waldo. But you know what? He's under the impression she's in love with him. And even as a poem, roses are red, violets are blue. Here. And hands her that bouquet of fake flowers, Steve. Luckily, he gave her these fake flowers because they last longer if you exchange the water every day. You just
Every day.
I mean, you might be right, Steve. Well, I mean, he's working with less than he doesn't even have half a deck of cards, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, not even a quarter.
He's got the Joker, and that's it. He basically asked Laura out. It takes him a while. He has to even just like steady himself, look the other way, and like kind of say it to the wall.
Yeah.
But he finally asked her out, and Laura, against all odds, is like, yeah, sure. And now, I mean, Urkel's he can't believe it.
Yeah, he's over the cliff now, man. Because he's thinking that she's going to turn him down gently. Like, all right, brace yourself. And when she says yes, he's just through the roof.
I love how Waldo instantly becomes just like a nice, pimpish dude and walks past Urkel. And Urkel's like, in his feelings. And Waldo's like, love means to never have to say you're sorry. So I'm going to take your girl. I mean, this
Trey Songz.
Now he's feeling himself, but Urkel can't believe it. Waldo leaves because he got what he wanted out of this deal, and now Urkel's like, "Yo, so you're just gonna? I've been trying to get this from you for years, and you just tell me no." And she's like, "Well, I know you can handle it because you're like smart and you're aware of yourself, so you don't need my validation. You can just get over it." but he
Like,
can't.
so I'm being penalized because I'm emotionally stable.
Yeah.
What-
I mean, this is real life, Steve. I mean, this is actually, I mean, it might not be emotional stability, but, you know, leave it to the lawyers of their world to just make the wrong decision every every possible way. Cut to Rachel's. We're mid date. I gotta say, Laura looks a little frazzled. Waldo's dressed to the nines, and unfortunately for Steve, he's got to take the order. So, but he's not really being happy. But he's like, "Hey, bub," you know, a lot of
If,
that energy.
if it isn't the new sweethearts, Waldo and Laura, well, what will you be having?
And Laura, she asked, like, "Is it okay if I get cheeseburger and fries?" Waldo pulls out his wallet. He's like, how bad you want those fries?"
Shout out to the chain wallet also. Shout out to Waldo just having a crispy chain wallet. But he's like, you know what? We're out here. This is a date. Get the fries, honey. And then, you know, Steve's like, what do you want? And he's like, water. Because, you know,
Yeah.
the coffers are a little low. And I've been here too, Steve. I've been here. I've been in that half-baked Dave Chappelle where you're just
I
like,
was just about to say,
on the radar trying to find money.
Motherfucker said ice cream, B.
Laura, you know, while they're waiting for that cheeseburger, Laura's like, "You want to dance?" And Waldo's like, "Yeah, hell yeah, it seems pretty cool about that." Pops a quarter in. Some like nice, sexy little jam comes up, which is like a nice, perfect slow song, Steve, just to get extra close. But instead, Waldo goes into, I mean, what I can only compare to like a Corey Feldman dance routine where he's throwing it all out there. Every move in the book.
yeah, the dance ain't matching the music. And Laura, she's embarrassed now. She runs back to the table with her hand over her face, like, "Oh shit, what did I sign up for?" And so Laura, she unplugs the jukebox too in the process. And then they talk about the movie that they went and saw. And he's like, "Man, I really want to go see Jif." And Laura's like, "What? Hold up, you mean JFK?"
I know
I
how
know
it's
her.
spelled.
Yeah.
Yeah, he apparently whatever movie they did go see, he was booing the whole time. So maybe they went to see The English Patient, Steve. I don't know. Maybe some we're talking about later. But it just wasn't a great date, you know. And Waldo becomes very self-aware at this point in the conversation. He's like, you know what? This just isn't working out. We're not a romantic couple. Like, we just need to be friends. Showing some real maturity here, Steve. Just laying it out there and didn't ghost her, didn't just keep going and just until it blew up in everybody's face, like I have personally. But I mean, at this point, you know, if you look at it on the opposite side, the lawyer's got to be like, yo, what the fuck?
How did this happen? And like, as they say goodbye to each other, he kisses her hand, but now her ring is stuck in his teeth.
I do like also because she does say something to him after he's like, we're done. And he's like, can you stop begging? Like, he even gets shitty about it. But he does pull like a Rico Suave and just try to give a little smooch on the hand, gets his teeth caught in the ring, which is insane. And then we cut a little bit later, and the ring's off Laura's hand, but it's still stuck in his teeth. And he's like, I'll get it to you tomorrow. You know, one of those.
And then Steve pops up, and Laura tells him, "Waldo just dumped me." And immediately his mind goes to, "Oh, so now that Waldo's out of the picture, I'm your number one reject?"
I guess so, Steve. What a. You are a piece of work, Laura Winslow. Jerk.
She's the biggest bitch in the family.
He's got that number one reject spot, Steve. But then, to bring it full circle, we see Carl and Lieutenant Murtaugh come into Rachel's. They're still talking about this whole car crash thing that's happened. And Carl, like, is after hearing all this abuse that Lieutenant Murtaugh's been just hurling at his mom, he's finally like, this is over with. You're not going to talk about my mom about like this anymore. I mean, he throws like a hissy fit kind of. It just like mans up is like, stop.
Stop dissing my mom.
Yeah. And he
I did
demands
like
damn apologies, Steve, like a man should.
I did like how Murtaugh said, "I called the DMV and find out her license number is 7."
Nice. You got a couple of Def Jam old people jokes in there, but it's about to get physical because Carl's really getting pissed off, you know, and he's like, All right, and Steve shows up and he's like, "Come on, guys, there's got to be something that we can do here. How about this? Let's sit down. I'm going to give you a slice of Rachel's delicious pie that we have over here free of charge, and you guys can have a nice piece of pie and figure this out." Turns out the lieutenant loves pie. He picks a whole pie out. He's like, "That's great. I do love pie." And actually, here you go, Carl. Here's a pie. And he tries to hit Carl in the face with it, but Carl's got, I mean, cat-like reflexes, obviously. He avoids it, but Steve takes one directly to the face, Steve. It's a full-on facial.
Yeah, I mean, all those years of patrolling these Chi-Town streets, man, his agility came to play. And so now it's Carl's turn to return the favor. And it's like, you know what? I got a pie for you too, sir. And so, yeah, once again, right into Steve's kisser.
Yeah, I mean,
And so,
that's tough, Steve. I mean, what do you do at this point as Steve, though? You got two cops here. It's not like you can get buck on these two dudes.
but hey, Steve don't care at this point. He snaps. He's like, look, I've had it with this. Now he takes his glasses off. He means business, but he can't see that well without his glasses. So he takes a pie and he decides to return the favor. And as he does that, he smashes Laura in the face as she leaves the restroom.
Damn. And then obviously now he's panicked that he's assaulted the love of his life, possibly losing that number one reject spot that he covets so much. They're out of the picture now. So now it's just Murtaugh and Carl again. Now Murtaugh, there's two pies left. They're fucking, this is a family business and Carl's just shitting all over that. So put that to the side. Murtaugh gets another piece of pie or another whole pie and is like, "You know what, Carl? I do owe you an apology. I should respect you your family as much as you, because I do respect you so much. So time for me to eat a piece of humble pie." And dude just clocks himself with a pie just as for restitution. So now you think everything's cool, and you're like, Carl's like, "Oh, that's awesome. We're good." And he's like acting all cool, and there's one pie left, and he's like, "You know what, Lieutenant?" And then he just slams Lieutenant with the other pie. Steve, you think he was going to take it to his little misdirection here?
Yeah.
Everybody's going to be pied up, but Carl Winslow ain't going to play like that. Steve, you talking about his mom? You're going to get a pie to the face.
Facts. I mean, Carl, he's the only one that didn't get a pie to the face in this. But if we're talking about Aunt Rachel's pies, I'll take any of her pies all day, every day.
Hell yeah. Throw any of that into my face, Rachel.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, girl.
Damn, I love how in every 90s show, there was just like this place that was not just a restaurant. It was just like the hang, because Rachel's turns into like a club.
In a way, yeah. I mean, and it's not just for the kids. I mean, adults apparently go there too.
Oh yeah, dude. They were all twerking on that dance floor when Waldo was Geraldoing all over the dance floor.
Oh, man.
That
But
was
Laura, you're such a douche.
I just don't get it. Like what the hell? And luckily Steve Urkel does get him a nice little tenderoni. He does get a little some on the side.
And so does Waldo. He actually traded up. Eventually he would get with Max, who I would prefer anyways.
There you go. It's karma. Laura, sad. Cat lady.